You don't need a seat at the head table because you're barely a member of the board. My father's voice didn't just carry, it commanded the room, slicing through the polite clinking of silverware at his 30th anniversary gala. He raised his crystal flute, not in a toast, but like a weapon, pointing it directly at me as I stood by the kitchen door holding a stack of extra napkins. Over 100 of the city's most influential people, the same people who had known me since I was a child, let out a collective, cruel titter of laughter. Someone has to make sure the vintage Chardonnay stays chilled and the guest coats are tagged, he chuckled, his eyes crinkling with a fake warmth that never reached his soul. That's your specialty, Elena. Being useful in the background. My mother didn't even blink, she just adjusted her diamond necklace and signaled for me to bring more water. In that moment, surrounded by the scent of expensive lilies and old money, my own blood publicly demoted me to a servant. They thought they were keeping me in my place. They didn't realize they had just invited a forensic auditor to their own funeral. To the world, I was the disappointment. In a zip code where success is measured in Ivy League degrees and tech IPOs, I was the 30-year-old daughter living in the guest cottage, driving a car with a peeling bumper. My sister, Chloe, called me a clutter manager. My father told his golfing buddies I was finding my purpose. But the truth was locked behind a triple encrypted firewall in the basement office. For 4 years, I haven't been finding myself, I've been finding their missing millions. My father, Marcus, is a man who treats the tax code like a suggestion and offshore accounts like a game of Tetris. When his creative accounting nearly triggered an IRS raid 3 years ago, he didn't call a law firm, he called me. He knew I had the brilliance to fix it and the filial loyalty to stay quiet. I became the ghost in his machine, the shadow CFO who laundered their reputation while they spent money I had to clean at 3 a.m. I wasn't their daughter. I was their unpaid liability shield. As the gala wound down, my mother cornered me near the grand staircase. She didn't offer a hug, she offered a leather-bound planner. We're leaving for Lake Como at dawn, she said, her voice a polished blade. The house staff is off for the week. You'll handle the filing in your father's study, the pool maintenance, and the dry cleaning. Don't embarrass us by failing at the simple things, Elena. I felt the weight of the planner, a list of chores for a woman with a master's in finance. In psychology, there is a term for this, strategic compliance. When you are facing a narcissist, you don't fight, you fade. You make yourself so small, so obedient, that they forget you have eyes. I looked her in the eye and let my shoulders slump just enough to look defeated. Of course, Mom. I'll make sure everything is perfect. My father laughed, tossing me the master key to the mansion like a coin to a beggar. That's my girl. Useful at last. He thought he was locking me in. He didn't realize he was handing the fox the keys to the hen house. By accepting the role of the servant, I had just gained 7 days of unrestricted access to the evidence that would bury them. The moment their private jet cleared the tarmac, the useful daughter vanished. I didn't water the orchids or call the pool guy. I walked straight into my father's sanctuary, the master key cold against my palm. He thought his Richard I password was a fortress. To me, it was a joke. I bypassed the dummy servers and dived into the hidden partition, the place where the Real Math lived. There it was, the black ledger. It wasn't just tax evasion. It was a systematic vacuuming of their charity for children, fund to pay for Chloe's designer closet and their Italian villas. For 72 hours, the only sound in the mansion was the hum of my encrypted hard drive mirroring 5 years of felonies. I didn't just find the dirt, I found the shovel. I documented every forged signature, every ghost employee, and every wire transfer to the Cayman accounts. As the progress bar hit 100%, I realized I wasn't just downloading files. I was downloading their freedom. I wiped the desk, removed my drive, and felt a cold, electric peace. The audit was over. The execution was about to begin. I didn't pack a suitcase, I packed a revolution. While my mother was likely sipping Aperol spritzes on a terrace in Bellagio, I was clearing out my guest cottage, leaving behind nothing but the scent of ozone and the echo of a life I was finished living. I walked back into the main house one last time, my footsteps echoing on the Italian marble that was bought with stolen charity funds. I didn't leave a tearful letter or a scream for help that I placed the master key and the to-do planner on the kitchen island. On the first page of the itinerary, right under the instructions for the dry cleaning, I stuck a single neon yellow post-it note. I wrote, "The pool is clean, the books are balanced, and the DOJ is waiting. Consider this my final audit." I drove my battered sedan to the airport, but I didn't check in at the budget terminal. I walked straight to the first-class lounge for a one-way flight to DC. As the plane leveled out at 30,000 feet, I opened my laptop and hit send on a pre-timed email to the Internal Revenue Service. They thought they had left a servant to guard the gates. They didn't realize the gates were already gone. 10 days later, the business meeting took place in the center of the Ritz-Carlton lobby. My parents looked radiant, bronzed by the Italian sun and draped in new silk, until they saw me. I wasn't wearing the intern rags they expected. I was in a charcoal gray power suit, sitting at a reserved table with a manila envelope that outweighed their entire legacy. "Elena? What is this nonsense?" my father hissed, his face turning a blotchy purple as he reached for my arm. "You abandoned the house. Do you have any idea the mess? The mess is exactly why I'm here, Marcus," I said, my voice as steady as a surgeon's hand. I slid the envelope across the table. It wasn't a list of dry cleaning, it was a copy of the federal seizure warrants. The IRS took the mansion an hour ago. The charity accounts are frozen. And the men in the lobby? They aren't here for the buffet. As the color drained from his tan, 2 agents in dark suits stepped out from behind the marble pillars. For once, the room was silent. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just watched the king of the world realize that his human shield had finally dropped the armor, and let the arrows hit their mark. The crash was spectacular, but for me, it was quiet. My father and Chloe received 7 years for wire fraud and embezzlement. My mother, the silent beneficiary, lost every diamond and deed she once used to look down on me. The mansion in Greenwich didn't just sell, it was liquidated to pay back the charities they had bled dry. Most people see a family's destruction and think of it as a tragedy. I see it as a balance sheet finally reaching zero. Because I was the whistleblower, the federal program awarded me a percentage of the recovered assets, a 8-figure payout that bought me my own firm and a life where I never have to ask for a seat at the table. I realized that my father wasn't powerful, he was just a loud man with a stolen megaphone. Now, I own my name, my work, and my silence. Family isn't about the blood in your veins. It's about the people who don't treat you like a contingency plan. Drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from and if you've ever had to play small to win big. I want to see how many of us are out there, waiting for our moment to balance the books.